Hello, reporting from the Jackson Street Bridge in Atlanta, where it's very cold, 17 degrees. And I was bringing my mom to show her this because we are gluttons for punishment. But also, happy Imbolc, which is the halfway point between winter solstice and spring equinox. Thank the good Lord above. And the rest of this video is going to be made inside because it's too cold.
As someone who has really found the benefits of living seasonally, I've always really paid attention to Imbolc because I don't like being cold. And I have a little bit of seasonal affective disorder. And so the idea of the light returning is something that always excites me. But I was really thinking about the significance of that coming back to life, yet everything is still kind of winter. That in-between point. I almost feel like it's a symbolism for what's kind of happening in the world in the grand scheme of things, because I think old structures are falling apart. I think as a society, we are starting to see the way in which the structures that we have been living in have made a lot of us lose sight of our humanity. And there's a large group of the world who is very much so focusing their attention and energy on how do we build a new structure? How do we do the inner work and create systems that are fair for everyone? When I think about Imbolc for me personally, what comes up is the inner work that people do before people actually notice the change. The nervous system regulation that you do when then somebody is around you and they say, oh, you feel good. Your energy feels lighter. You feel more at peace. Before people actually notice that, you have to do that work inside. When people talk about inner work, sometimes people want that change to be something that is so rapid and so quick and so noticeable. But sustainable change happens over time, and a lot of that change happens inside before anyone gets to see the outside. And that's the season we're in right now. Imbolc is all about the earth coming back alive inside before any of the flowers come above ground. It's the awakening. It's that feeling you have inside when you start to notice that perhaps you're showing up differently. And then the world happens to notice. And so then I was thinking about this on a grand scale because, I have always led by this belief that the work starts within, but then it can't just stay there because then I'm too self-centered. And as a Leo sun, Leo rising, I already am at risk of being too self-centered. How do I then take that work I do within out into the world and perhaps help other people find their own peace and healing, or maybe change the systems that we're living in that are starting to crumble because of how everyone's feeling that friction of we can't have equality and justice for everyone in these systems, these old systems that so we've got to create something new. It all's going to start inside each of us as an individual. My mom was here this weekend, and something that I've recognized with my mom is she is one of my biggest trigger points in terms of patience, is that I am very judgmental. Ooh, boy. If I'm judging you, though, it's because I'm judging me. And so I judge my mom about everything. And she's a beautiful mirror to me because she knows that I love her and she knows that I'm working on not being judgmental. Sometimes I struggle with this deep calling to be forward-facing, to put my life out there, to share my story and the way in which I have taken my story and turned it and transmuted it into something productive and positive. And then there's times where I do not feel like being perceived. So therefore, I don't want to put any of my story or my face or anything out into the public. And to have this contradictory experience within inside of me has been something that I've had to do a lot of work with. And something that recently clicked in my brain was a lot of that I'm not in the mood to be perceived is because I have the propensity to be judgmental, I therefore think everyone is also going to be judgmental. Whenever you are judging yourself, you're going to be a lot more susceptible to the judgment of others. And so this is something that I've been doing a lot of work on. And it's like they say, if you think you're enlightened, spend time with your family. Because when my mom was here, I was like, oh, I've done some work about this. We'll see how it goes. Within the first hour, knows that it's something that she also does as well. And so as we are continuing to grow as people, it is important to recognize the way in which we are a reflection of the society as a whole. And so if I'm being judgmental of others and looking at them for things instead of trying to find their understanding and trying to find humanity and a common ground, then I am being a part of the problem. There's sometimes where I look at people who believe something as strongly as I do, but on the other side, and I'm just convinced that they are what's wrong with the world. And then I recognize that that is an internal condition that is going to keep us all stuck. And this time of the year is about not being stuck. It's about stirring up. Like Imbolc means in the belly, inside. And so I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be stuck anymore looking at the opposing side and thinking they're the ones that have to do the work. It has to start within me. And then if each of us as an individual are doing that internal work, it is going to reflect into the outer world. What starts within comes without. Everything starts as a seed in the soil, and then slowly but surely comes spring. Ba-da-da! As the light is growing, we can use this energy and grow it within us. Because if we are going to be of impact into the world and help create a different system, then we have to be tapping into our creativity, our love, our understanding of others, and most importantly, our humanity. We got to look at the human beings who are being hurt and figure out what are we putting out into the world that is feeding this. We can't sit out every world event because we need to protect ourselves and practice boundaries, but also we can't engage in every world event because our nervous systems were not made to know everything about everyone. You know, the world at one point was very local. We knew what was happening in our communities. We knew our neighbors. Now we know global events and people across the globe, and we don't even know our neighbors. When you think about what nature is often trying to teach us, it's trying to teach us community, connectivity. You think about that mycelium network that even in the winter, these trees and everything under the earth are communicating. And you know, if you know anything about the mycelium network, you know that if one tree needs something and it's connected to another tree in the forest, that tree will do what it can to send it a nutrient or something. That's what we need to do as humans, again, is reconnect with people who are in our areas and build communities. When we reconnect to people like that, is that we find things locally where we can make a huge impact, which then makes a huge impact globally. Nature has already figured out all of the complicated problems that come with aliveness. And that if we as humans were to actually take some wisdom from nature, we would have a lot to learn. That interconnectedness is what we need to strive for. Not codependence, it's not independence, it's interdependence. It's finding the ways in which you can feed your community and feed the world, and then also receive and let it be reciprocal. If somebody wants to give you support and love, that's what community is all about. And that is what builds bigger movements. What communities do you have access to? And how can you all plan and create? And what is coming up inside? Do you have judgment coming up? Do you have fear? Do you have resistance? Allow it to come up. Winter is the invitation of sitting still enough to say, okay, what needs to be cleared? Now's the time to hear it. And don't be afraid of it. It's the medicine. It is exactly what we need. We all need to have that level of awareness of the things within us that need to be worked on so that when we're out in the world, we're showing up as the helpers. I grew up on Mr. Rogers. Love Mr. Rogers. He's from the Pittsburgh area. The amusement park, Idlewild Park, that I worked at in Pennsylvania growing up had a whole Mr. Rogers neighborhood side of the amusement park. And we didn't have cable because we grew up poor, and so I think we had PBS and watched Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers. Oftentimes you hear Mr. Rogers being quoted about finding the helpers. I'd also say that Mr. Rogers was a helper. He wasn't just saying make sure you find the helpers. He was also embodying that and being one of the helpers. We have to also show up as one of the helpers. We all have a very unique thing we can bring to the world. It's interesting when I oftentimes look back at my life and the experiences I went through and the way in which I learned my own resiliency through going through them and finding myself being okay, even if sometimes traumatized and spinning around the block, always okay. And how much I want to offer that same peace and love and care and safety and goodness to everyone else. And that is one of the biggest ways I can show up as a helper. To be able to create the new world that we are all trying to create, we have to learn to find some commonality with people who once we found a lot of judgment for. And that's hard work. And that's work that starts within. And that is the invitation of today. When it comes to judgment, I have to ask myself what it is trying to tell me. Is it I'm judging this person because I just wish they would see the world the same as I would? Is it that I am forgetting that we also have a common ground? Our differences get really, really, really loud because of the world we live in. We live in echo chambers. The algorithms just create everything, and fear. Really, fear is the biggest weapon used against us. We are taught to fear people. We are taught to be separate. We are taught to be independent and not interdependent. And I'm thankful that my mom and I have each other to practice on removing the judgment and actually listening and hearing and communicating in a nonviolent communication way where it's not like, you idiot, can't believe you believe that. Like, what's wrong with you? Which, I'll be 100% for real with y'all, is sometimes my natural instinct. I just want to be like, y'all are stupid. Why am I dealing with this? That really isn't productive. I'm one person who very often overestimates my importance in the world, in people's lives, and my influence over others. And so therefore, sometimes I'm like, I'm going to be the girl that changes the world and brings everyone together and reminds everyone that there is hopefulness, and not false hope, but real grounded hopefulness. And I'm going to bring unity and peace. And then I remember I'm one person, but we all, as a collective, if we all take that human experience of ours serious enough, and we do that work internally, imagine the different frequency and energy we are then taking out into the world. I think about this as an energy thing because what you focus on, your energy grows. If we're focusing internally on what is coming up, what wants me to heal, what wants me to process and change and tap back into groundedness and humanness and my most aligned self, what does that feel like? If we all actually did that work, the way in which we would create a different energy in the world, ooh, baby. I've talked to a lot of people who live in the energy realm of, I don't want to give energy to the negative things of the world because I feel like I'm feeding it. And they're harvesting our energy by watching us get enraged, and they're taking that anger and they're turning it into power. Very much so. Some solid evidence, validity to that. And then I have friends who are very much so on the front lines. They're full activists. They are active and loud, and everywhere you look on their social media, they're very much so talking about this. Also very valid. We need the information. We need the organizers. We need the people who are moving. We all have our own unique things in which we can bring out into the world. And this is the season that's asking us to figure out what that is. We need all of us activated in our aligned selves. And how are we then taking that out into the world? It's not one person's responsibility to fix the whole world, and I have to remind that to myself as well as most of my clients. It all boils down to capacity of making sure you are tending to your own life and your nervous system and your processes and your shit so that you are then available to hold the capacity for the world's shit. Just like we can't ignore what's going on in the world, we can't ignore what's going on within us. So, bring us full circle to Imbolc, where we are right now. It is our invitation to really look at ourselves, hold ourselves accountable, do whatever work we're being asked to do. If you're feeling that inner part of you starting to come alive, but yet you're still not feeling go full speed ahead, congratulations, you're living seasonally. As the light returns and the light grows, lean into that energy. What do I need to give myself in order to respond and react differently? What do we need to do with ourselves so that we're living congruently into the world? I want the frequency in which I'm showing up into the world to be one of love, not of judgment. All of the things that I feel building within me in this season coming up to spring, it is community. So I've created some community spaces recently. One of them is low cost. It's going to be every new moon. And one of them is a free offering in the park for people in Atlanta for bring your journals, bring your art supplies. My favorite tools I've ever used in all of my life is journaling. And one of my favorite things I get to do with my clients or my friends is to offer journal prompts. And so this is how we're going to end this. Your journal prompts. What feels like it's growing inside of you that no one is aware of yet? And are you fully aware of everything that is growing inside of you? What is something that lies within you that you're able to see in the stillness of winter that you know you need to transmute? Similar to me with judgment, what makes you feel human in a world that is trying to strip us from our humanity? And what helps you remember to find the humanity in others, even those who think differently than you? What is one small way you can connect with your local community? Can you meet a neighbor? Can you join a local book club? Can you find any of your interests that are local and go tap into that community? If there is not such a community, how can you create that? Thank you all for being here. Thank you for making it through this video if you did. And thank you for, checking in within and being a part of creating the new structure. Each time we all collectively do that work, it is building that energy and that frequency and that momentum and the action and the community and the connectivity. And that's how we heal. That's how we overcome. We're in the season of winter, halfway between where spring is coming. The old systems are very clearly no longer working, and yet we have yet to rebuild the new one. The in-between space is very potent. It's our chance to really make magic into reality. Thanks for joining me.